I'm standing here on Portobello Road. Most people will be aware of the very iconic building which is ahead of me, called Trellick Tower. Trellick Tower is a Grade 2 listed building which was opened in 1972 and famously built by the brutalist architect Erno Goldfinger.
I can tell you a story. When I was young, when I was little, I suppose when I was about 15, 16, I don't know if you know Trellick Towers. It's a tall building. We used to play there when we were kids. But I remember it when it was getting built, and I remember it actually falling down when they first started building it. They came down and then they rebuilt it again.
I'm the co-chair of the Residents Association of Trellick Tower.
Trellick Tower has been a part of my life for 30 or 40 years. I could see it from the building where I grew up from the age of 7 or 8 years old. It's a structure that's always meant home. It's obviously an iconic space, an iconic building. The idea that it's this brutalist structure that has been kind of misrepresented in some way for a long time as a kind of crack house or a scene of crime and negligence or neglect, and actually it's now turned around to being quite an iconic, hugely stylized, stylish, fashionable structure, a bit like Ladbroke Grove, it's just in a similar way.
And I've been in Ladbroke Grove for about 40 years, and I came in when I was about 13. I went to school in local Newton, and when I came to this area it was a very, very tough area. There's a lot of crime and also smuggling was going on, but it had changed. The area has changed a lot since then, and it's been better now.
I'm James from Cafe Fluence. We're a whole food cafe specialising in superfoods, and recently entered a retail market selling healthy products, as you can see here. Well, we used to have a video shop here in the late 80s, and it was the first of a chain that we opened.
Our streets in North Kensington are riddled with history, and this is number 1 Bassett Road, where a plaque in 2009 was placed for Amy Ashwood Garvey, who was an activist, a womanist, a Pan-Africanist, and very much involved in the campaign against racism in North Kensington, and also the campaign around the killing of Kelso Cochrane, the racist murder of Kelso Cochrane in May 1959. Amy Ashwood Garvey's plaque was placed here through some of the work of the Octavia Foundation's media group.
There were a number of local schools such as Cardinal Vaughan, Isaac Newton, St Mary's, Barby Road and Cardinal Manning Boys' School situated in St Charles Square, which saw the likes of award-winning actor Alfred Molina educated there.
Taught for 11 years actually at primary schools such as Barby Road and Middle Row, but when I was 31, 32, I finally managed to leave school, and I was asked to go on tour opening for Paul McCartney.
My mum had problems trying to get us into a Catholic school back in the days because she wasn't married, and she finally got us into St Mary's primary school, which I was the first black girl attending there, and then gradually my brothers started going there. I went to Manning afterwards, and it was more of a mixture. There was a lot more, blacks in there and whatever. I don't teach, but we provide the lunches and that for children that's been excluded from school, etc. They've come from, they've got problems. I just saw some of them on the road, actually running across the road, nearly getting knocked down. But I miss, you know, I enjoyed that.
Went to St Thomas's, which was St Andrews on Appleford Road. Secondary school, Isaac Newton School for Boys on the Portobello Road. Upper school, Warnington Road, I used to attend.
So I went to school in the area from primary school to secondary school. I would say it has changed, especially the demographic that my old secondary school caters to now. So Holland Park was highly concentrated with a lot of Labrador Grove young people, as well as the nearby areas, be that Shepherd's Bush, Harrow Road, or Holland Park itself. I think a lot of us that went to school there, we spent home together, be that the 31 back to Bush or the 52 or 452 back to Grove. And I think that in itself was a lovely part of my childhood, the going back home from school, because everyone would go back to the same area.
North Kensington, through the officers of the now defunct ILEA and the local council, saw a number of youth clubs and organisations such as the Harrow Youth Club, Harrow Club, Rugby Youth Club, Venture Youth Centre, Lancaster Youth Club and Omnibus Youth and Theatre Organisation. The Harrow Club has been creating positive futures for marginalised young people in West London since 1883. The club building still stands, but now functions as a community centre, offering a range of valuable services to a still impoverished community. The centre has received large sums from charitable bodies that have provided it with a range of extensive facilities and refurbishing. But back in the 1950s, the entrances were on the other side of the building, that which now faces the elevated motorway that stretches from Shepherd's Bush to the Marylebone Road. The construction of this flyover in the 1960s was to have a devastating effect on the immediate community. Omnibus Youth and Theatre Organisation, who predominantly worked with marginalised young people and adults. Omnibus produced 11 London Youth Club disco dance champions, as well as the first London disco dance champion, with North Kensington's own Peter Francis. Karen Hamilton, its head of fashion, was one of the founders and instrumental in bringing the first black designers show to London at the Commonwealth Institute. Its patrons included Arthur Ashe, the first male black Wimbledon and US champion, Cleo Lane and Lady Astor. Among its many shows, it hosted the Our Guy 82 show, in the presence of Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Gloucester, and a host of civic and other celebrities.
She said to me one day, there's a theatre company in the road, I want you to join. I was like, huh? I'm dancing in my bedroom, right? I'm dancing in my bedroom. My mum's like, no, there's a theatre company, because my mother, she's played 8 different instruments, she sang, she made, and she saw what, by going to the Omnibus Dance Theatre Company, it took me away from the madness that was here. Behind the closed doors of our theatre company, we did amazing things. We could dream, we could perform. Kirsty, who taught us contemporary. Jane Elliott taught us ballet. Yeah? Everil Puckering. We had Everil Puckering, this amazing jazz dancer. There used to be a guy called Richie, who was Loftus's friend, and as I said, Loftus's motto was in pursuit of excellence, and we were the first black kids to do ballet. And you know, we were told that we had different bone structure, and it was nuts. But it taught us standards, and thus being part of that, you know, some of the members of the Omnibus Dance Theatre Company went on to greatness. Danny, you see in Cats, in Red Dwarf, he's the cat in Red Dwarf. You know, Pepsi and Shirley, Yaz, The Only Way Is Up, she was my dancing partner. And just what Loftus created all those years ago has stemmed me in life to achieve. I've danced all over the world, you know, from one man had a vision that us young kids, we kind of understood, yeah, but he was, he's a leader, and he was miles ahead of everyone. And now I understand, and I pay homage to him now, yeah. I should try and turn up on time next time.
I discovered Omnibus, which is on East Row. I was 16, at home, pretty bored, wanted something to do. I really loved contemporary dance, knew I loved ballet, but I could never be a ballet dancer. And then I discovered Omnibus, and I don't know how, but I made my way there. I met people similar to myself who wanted to to dance and loved ballet and was very much into contemporary dance. And I met Richie Riley and Karen Hamilton. So Underbus gave me the confidence. I didn't end up being a ballet dancer, but definitely gave me the confidence to go out there and do something for myself.
This is Hattie. She doesn't do any youth work. She likes to catch mice. Okay, so I'll tell you what changes I've noticed. When I first started in youth work in 76, this borough was the best resourced borough in London, it seemed to me. And although, because we were under what was then the ILEA, there was a fair spread of resources across London, and there was multiple provision for and specialist work with gays and lesbians, women, black young people, and general youth work. What's changed, in my opinion, is that youth work has become less generalist, which gave young people space to meet in their own terms, and more specific, and it's about outcomes and turning young people into commercial units.
But I then realised what I wanted to do was to be a youth worker, get involved in youth work, and that's been my main career, as well as professionally, because I qualified.
So I qualified as a youth worker in 1976. My first job was at the rugby club, which then was a large community centre in Notting Dale, predominantly catering for what you now call the white working class.
And I then opened up the youth club in the Venture Centre. I had a little group come and say, from my football league, five-a-side football league, team, we've come here to see if you'll manage us in an 11-a-side football team. I flatly refused to do this. I'm a youth worker now. I'm not a football manager. But I set them some tasks. They came back and found me 15 to sign on, a possible ground, and would I be the secretary of it? So yes, for a couple of years I ran nearly an all-black football team. My son was in it as well, because he was 17, 18 by then. And it was just amazing. That was one of the best things I've ever done.
Also as well, another thing that really affected us, there was a stabbing at the Metro Club, and Danny De Silva died, and I can still see it gut-wrenching. When you're a kid and someone who you play football with dies, it really affected us as children. Yeah, not any Leventon playground. There was nothing around here. There was nothing for us children, right? There was nothing, and we had the Venture
Centre, which I think is an extremely important part of the community that must be supported. Unfortunately, this council really has not taken much account of this area.
I remember Acklam, that was our youth centre, that was our playground, and it was a rubble back in the days. It was just a rubble. We used to make our own swings, our own play camps, etc.
So I work with Fair Arts as an organisation that runs out of Portobello. It's very grassroots. We work with young people, while young people stretches out till 30, so between the ages of 18 to 30, because quite often enough, after 25, a lot of the funding stops.
I think the elders should understand, because the elders were once at our age, but unfortunately, I don't know, man, it's upsetting to see, but yeah, I feel like the elders should kind of understand the fact that we're the future, innit? The same way the ones younger than me are the future, innit? And the times that they're growing up in, I didn't grow up in, and vice versa, So then I was growing up, there were things going on that the elders didn't experience. In the same way, there's things going on now with the youngsters that I didn't experience. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. Things are constantly changing, and we kind of got to change with them. And sometimes you've got to allow those that are actually living through certain experiences to actually inform you of what's going on, like in real life, not.
My favourite stories has to be growing up and being on the Power Square and just playing out with a whole bunch of different kids who nowadays I see and we don't really, we've all of us have gone in such different paths that it's rare for us to have more interaction than just a hey, how are you? But at that time we were all such there was a unit, there was a group.
Waves of immigrants have arrived for at least a century, including but certainly not limited to the Spanish, Irish, Jewish, West Indians, Moroccans, and many from the Horn of Africa and Eastern Europe. This constant renewal of the population makes the area one of the most cosmopolitan in the world. A significant number of Moroccans settled in North Kensington, and Portobello Road is commonly known as Little Morocco.
What we do is we sell everything here is from my motherland, Morocco, from the Atlas Mountains. We primarily focus on rugs, all handmade, and it's something that we do which again feeds our family over here and helps a lot of villagers back home. The land that we're actually on is owned by the community, so obviously like my dad originally started on a stall on the Portobello Road, and even for us to get this place we had to battle. It wasn't an easy process.
Hi everyone, my name is Ali. I'm from Sitara Interiors. We're a business established on Portobello Road for the last 30 to 40 years.
My name is Ahmed. I have a shop in Portobello Market. I have a souvenir shop. We have a shop about from 2017 in this Portobello Market. We're selling souvenir thing.
I'm the owner of One of a Kind Vintage Archive on Portobello Road. We do high-end vintage clothing and accessories, and cater for the most stylish and collectors of rare pieces worldwide.
I've been in Kensington for more than 10 years and I'm loving it. Nice area, is colorful area around here, and there is a lot of historical around this area, Portobello, where the carnival and the market, famous market around. There is college, Kensington College, just in the corner. So yeah, welcome.
This is our shop. We opened this shop 3 years ago. It's an ethnic shop. It's also called Jali's Artisan Gallery, which is for anything ethnic. All of it very handmade, designed by artisans in the area, and then sold here.
New buildings began to spring up again after the clearing of the slums. Some projects, like the Westway, brought their own form of destruction along with the spaces that would grow up beneath the motorway. In 1971, the Westway Trust was established in response to local protests at the social and environmental damage caused by the construction of the elevated A40 highway, the Westway. The Trust's remit was to improve the lives of the residents of the Royal Borough of Kensington and Chelsea. Westway Trust was given a long lease over 23 acres of land under the Westway. The Trust's focus, as it was in 1971, is the communities who live, work and visit the local area.
As part of my role as a community artist and designer, I supported a number of local community campaigns that were protecting local cultural and community assets. And as part of one of those campaigns, it led to some significant changes at the Westway Trust organisation, which manages 23 acres of land in North Kensington. And following the changes that took place as they made decisions to become a more community-focused organisation, I took up the role of chair of the Westway Trust, which has been, really quite an incredible privilege to begin with. COVID hit. The coronavirus hit a matter of weeks into taking on the role. The rug has been completely pulled from underneath the feet of the organisation. We've lost half the staff. The organisation has lost half of its income. There's over 100 tenants who are struggling themselves to pay the rent to the Westway Trust, so that the Westway Trust in turn can do its duty for the local community, and prepared for just anything really to come. But a global pandemic, funnily enough, wasn't in my thinking.
Within 6 weeks of us starting, the Westway Trust came with their plans to redevelop the intersection of the Westway and Portobello Road. And so we got sucked in, if you like, to this the dissent that is endemic in this area. Not against our will, but it hadn't been part of our intention.
And all of these bays, all the tramps used to live under these bays. You see, the Westway Trust was designed, the land underneath was meant to be the community. All of us lost our houses along here. All the houses were knocked down. They designed all of these houses, all of this land under here was for the local community. You know, I'd love to know what Prince Monday does for the community. No.
If we go back to 95, 96, 97, this area was full of small music companies. So it was a whole Britpop thing. So a lot of people came here for that, you know, but they all moved away. There's no music companies here now, you know. If you want my reason for it, because the rents were quite low in this area, which is run by the Westway Trust, but now they're fleecing everybody, hiking the rents up. They want to charge high street rents. This is not a high street. This is a secondary position here, you know. So everybody's moved away, you know. We don't get too many weird cars. We get a lot of weird people. If you just look out there, you'll see some weird people out there, you know. It's drugs and the usual stuff, drugs and alcohol, antisocial behaviour, which the Westway Trust should do something about. They do nothing about it, you know. So yeah.
Grew up in the area with a tailor shop, yeah. So I left, went back to the West End. Then I came back, looking at the area. I saw these units was up for sale, so for renting, yeah. And then I applied, and then I got the go ahead. Well, there's a mixture of community, which is nice, you know, and the carnival, which is lovely, yeah. So, yeah, it's a lovely area to work in. Well, we've done years of Graham Norton's show, and commercials, all sorts of different television, opera, Glanborn Opera, the Royal Opera House, yeah. BBC, ITV, anyone who's got the work will do the work. And it doesn't matter from what century. So period, costumes, anything. Once they've got a picture, we can make it.
Like I said earlier, this whole place is owned by the community. But you know, like due to previous management, I think it was a bit hard for us to kind of get our foot in through the door. But obviously now there's like new management, Westway 23, I think they go by. What's important is that they're from the area. And hopefully they do bring some good change to the area. You know what I mean? And hopefully they understand that the youth are the future and they need to get the voices of the youth, and like a lot of them have children that are on the streets. So they need to grab their children and be like, yo, what can we do to get you off the streets? Like, what do you need? You know, and it's not hard, man. There's so much things. There's no youth clubs. They got 23 acres of land. The amount of stuff that they can do is ridiculous. Like, they can literally be an example to not just the rest of London, the rest of the UK. They can be an example to the rest of the UK and teach people outside of our community how to get things done, the correct route that they have. And that's it, like, do you know what I mean? Like, we got so many shops in here within this place that's meant to be owned by the community. 90% ain't even from the ends, and they're benefiting from subsidised rent rates, and that don't make no sense in my opinion. If they're not from the area, they should be paying privatised rent just like people on the high street. You know what I mean? And like I've already stressed to Toby, who's the chair, I said, look, if people are from the area, this place should be like a stepping stone. Like, they've got the Westway Trust is something that's been established since what, 1971 or something like that. So you guys have got everything in-house. If you don't get the right youths, and I said I can help you source these youths, if you get the right youths that are trying to do something with their life, you can give them a space, they provide you with a business plan, show you if you believe in the business plan, you can support them. You've got people that build websites, you've got people that can do marketing, you've got people that do all the aspects that they're unaware of, you can teach them. And especially if they're doing it for themselves, they're going to want to do it, and I guarantee you they will succeed.
Doing music through wanting to help to raise money to paint murals on the walls of the flywheel. So there were a bunch of people who were committed to getting rid of the cold brick, and we were painting murals. And so we decided to start organizing benefit concerts to buy paint. And that's where I started. It was my first experience of organizing any kind of event. I engaged all the reggae bands in West London and a lot of the punk bands in West London and put them on stage for 2 days. It was Aswad, King Songs, Alton Ellis, Sons of Jah, Brimstone, you know, all these bands, the Passions, Vincent Units. Look, I mean, you know, it's in the record somewhere. We put on all these bands.
Been on the Green, the best pub ever. Can I just give you the background to all that while we're talking about that? Because we've always done music. Back in 1999, when the bar now was which we called In on the Green, was still part of the fitness centre, was run by a group called .com as the internet cafe. We ran gigs in the aerobic studio. Prior to that, we'd run gigs in King's Cross in bars above a pub called Drummond's, and while I was working at the Seven Feathers, we run variety cabaret nights once a month as like a social service, really.
I think until it got written up in the local newspaper.
Until we got a full page spread in the Evening Standard, and the council took a
yes.
rather dim view of us having cabaret and trampolining and alcohol at the same time. So we were interested in running in on what was then, it was called Whoops for a while, and it was a snooker club. And when that closed, we were interested in running it. However, we missed the boat for that one, so the Trust, in their infinite wisdom, gave us a small bar down at the Westway Sports site, where we made a little bit of money by running illegal late night parties, and which were amazingly fantastic. And when the bar came up again in 2005, In on the Green, we agreed to run it on the premise that we could turn it into a venue rather than just a snooker hall, which we did. And for 6 years, I think we managed to use our community and youth work skills and general love of music to create what most people seem to think was a wonderful vibe. You've referred to the pictures up there of Mick Jones. We had 6 weeks of Mick Jones' Carbon Casino with him and Tony James and ex-members of The Clash playing, which were probably one of the highlights when we were super busy. But across the board, we had young people's band nights, we had kids bands, we had
celebrities.
We had celebrities, but we also had, you know, a range of music from Eastern European to I don't know, trans-global underground type people and all sorts of stuff, which we thought was, you know, anything we liked we would have. So yeah, that's where it came from. And
can I just add to that because when Dave and I have both spoken about having a youth work career for a time, there were people that would say to us, this is like an adult youth club, and we were quite pleased with that. And I think we also had around us, we had just wonderful staff, and a few of the staff, many of the staff were actually the sons or daughters of our own friends.
Youth club connections.
Yeah, youth club connections. The parents were in the youth club. And I just think we had a really good policy with the staff, and if someone didn't really fit in with that, we would help improve her or him, or they left, so that the staff were always prepared to not only serve, have a chat. In the daytime, people quite often just came in out of the hurly-burly of Notting Hill, with their computers.
With their children.
With their children, yes. David was excellent that way. We still got friends whose children now are in their
20s. ISIS.
Yes, yes.
So we have photos of your kids playing Jenga in the bar.
Is the Pepper Pot Club, founded by Pansy Jeffries and providing meals and social activities for elderly West Indian people.
Pepper Pot started before being here. It's been in this building now for 21 years, but it was a concept started by my mother, Pansy Jeffries, who's now passed away 2 years ago. She and a few others like Wilfred Wood and a few other people in the area, Chris Lemaitre, Herman Ousley, felt that there was a need for a a facility where Caribbean people could come and meet, because they're beginning to retire now, and they're suffering from loneliness, discrimination, alienation from their own culture. So they thought they have a kind of club where they could come and just feel comfortable in this local area. That's how Pepper Pot started out. Pepper Pot is a dish, a Caribbean dish, which made from cassorep, which is something you use from cassava. It looks like tar, and you throw it in. And one of our members, a man called Jules, said to me, "You should throw it in a pot. We call it pepper pot." A bit more than that. It's meat, it's cassava, and it has a preservative factor. It helps to preserve food. And then there's something. It's made in a Dutch pot. It's kind of a very hard iron pot, and you put it in, you cook it out. But when it comes out, it's black. And I'm from Guyana. We have it at Christmas. One of the Christmas meals is pepper pot. But in other parts of the world, if you go to Jamaica, it's different, gets more soupy. In Louisiana, it's another thing called pepper pot. It's very similar, but the one that we have named it after is sort of an Arawak dish. And if you look at it, you think it smells nice. It's very black. If you look at pepper pot, the cassock looks like tar, and you pour it in, and that's hence the name pepper pot. So I know this is a very hum of activity in the past. What essentially it does is it marries daycare and drop-ins. People come in here. I'm talking about post-pandemic. We're closed in a moment for a certain way. People would come in here for lunch. If I gave you an idea of a week, you come here on a Monday morning, you could do chair exercises, that's yoga and fitness. We share it with people coming from open age to do that. There's a room where you can do painting, a room where you can make dolls. Pepper used to make a lot of dolls, black dolls. There's a next room where you can play games. Amongst that, there's a Bible reading class on a Thursday. Tuesday afternoon is bingo, very popular. And a range of activities going on. We have a reminiscence group who meet. People come in and do guest talks. We have a lot of links with the NHS. They come and do talks on diabetes and dementia and a range of things. So there's a lot of things going on here all the time.
Inspired by a visit to Christiania in Copenhagen, socialist activist Nicholas Albury and actor David Rappaport put forward the idea of seceding from the United Kingdom and establishing the free and independent Republic of Frestonia. A meeting was attended by 200 local residents on Sunday, October 30th. A referendum was held with unanimous support for cessation. Citing a legal loophole, the residents took the collective surname of Bramley, which was to support their request to be rehoused as a single family. An application for membership to the United Nations was submitted. Once a former chapel on Basing Street in North Kensington in the early 1900s, the deconsecrated church was used by Gems Wax Models to create models that would be sold to Madame Tussauds museums around the world. The 17th century converted chapel was converted once again, this time becoming a recording studio. And not just any music studio. It was established by Island Records founder Chris Blackwell, one of Britain's most legendary studios. From the 1960s onwards, many great artists spent time in the West London studio. Artists such as the Rolling Stones, Bob Marley, Madonna and Led Zeppelin all recorded songs and albums in the once neighbourhood chapel.
My dad used to work over there when he was Island Records under Chris Blackwell. That's when Bob Marley first come over, you know. Love Peter Tosh. I used to like Dennis Brown, but Bob Marley, I see Bob about 4 times live. When I have another time out, I'd pick 1 or 2 pictures out with Bob and my dad when they were over there, and a few different people, you know.
Gosh, I printed pictures for instance, David Gilmour. I've met people like Mick Jagger in this area, who used to live here. A lot of the modern bands, you know, not so much modern, but we were talking about the 70s, a lot of the punk bands, they all met them because I live near Basing Street Studios, and they were always in and out, walking by. I met some of them.
The Tabernacle was originally a place of worship, and it was established in 1869 by evangelical preacher Gordon Forlong and completed in 1888 to be a church. The red brick, Romanesque, terracotta building was larger than most churches in the area and had a maximum capacity of around 1,000 people. Over time, Powys Square, which surrounds the tabernacle, began to go into decline, seeing many of its original middle-class residents move elsewhere by the 1930s. The church also saw decline, and by the 1970s was no longer a place of worship. In 1973, squatters occupied the tabernacle, and it took serious steps to become the community centre that it is today. By 1975, the tabernacle officially closed as a church and was taken over by Kensington and Chelsea Council. After several community campaigns, demolition of the tabernacle was dodged, and the iconic building went on to gain Grade 2 status. As a thriving community arts centre through the 80s and 90s, the tabernacle was host to several high-profile artists, including the Rolling Stones and Pink Floyd, who used the space to rehearse. Even through years of difficult financial issues, the tabernacle held numerous benefits and events, such as the Tab Rwanda, the Notting Hill Panto, and several rap shows and reunion gigs.
At the tabernacle we have a young people's programme called GLUE, which stands for Guided Learning, United and Educating, and it's for young people from the ages of 5 upwards. They do steel pan classes, art classes, drama. They've got an area in the garden at the front of Tabernacle where they're planting called the Promise Garden, and we have a summer programme that they do every year. This year it's going to be called Glue Studios, and young people come in from 9 AM till about 4 o'clock every day during the week and engage in positive activities.
I was involved at the beginning of the Portobello Panto at the Tabernacle in 1988.
About doing a book, but the thing was that all it was thoughts, and I had this idea of making a book that basically writes itself, because I've got 30 years doing record covers and rave flyers. I thought to go back to the source, to the people who actually like my artwork, to get in touch with them and the promoters and the producers, to get them to write a piece about their favourite piece of my artwork, so the book basically writes itself. But years later, I got an email from a man called Colin, who used to run a magazine called The Knowledge Magazine, which is about drum and bass. And he made me an offer I can't refuse. He said, "Isn't it about time that you had a book out?" And I said, "Yes." So that's how it all happened. It was for a band called OCBisa. They've been going since the 70s, and they're an Afro-funk band. So I was contacted by Greg Kofi Brown, and before that he liked my work as an Afrofuturist, and he was basically going to do something with me, but he showed my work to the manager, and that's how I got the gig for doing their album cover, and subsequently their second single release from the album. So I've got 2 record covers with my artwork on it that's been released this month, so I'm quite chuffed.
So I was a professional musician for about 8 years. I studied audio engineering at university. I picked up barbering so that I didn't have to do bar jobs in between contracts, because obviously nobody likes to do bar jobs. When I was a musician, I used to be a street performer for 3 of those years. So now, I work as a barber. I used to do kind of part-time barber and part-time musician and music, but now it's full-time barbering for now. After the lockdown, we're gonna get the money back up.
I supply people with trims and sewing and craft accessories for a whole genre of industries, from small designers to couturier designers, film, which I cover lots of blockbuster films, from your Hollywood blockbusters to little short films that are being made in the area.
Doing artwork, the mosaic up the road, the Spanish Civil War mosaic. I did the Kelso Cochrane mosaic in the cemetery, for which I understand other people are possibly getting the credit. I did a bit of artwork for Meanwhile Gardens with their May 1981 poster, although I built adventure structures there and I helped do gardening, helped build the pottery for Churchill, John Churchill.
Everyone thinks about Notting Hill being filmed in the area, but there's been quite a few films, and the one that sticks to my mind is Finding Grace with Blenda Blethyn. And in the film, she's shown just on the corner there of Portobello Road and Lancaster Road.
Well, we have an array of artists and musicians and people who have had long history with the area, like the Clash, for instance, Mick Jones, and several others who sort of mould into the atmosphere. You wouldn't necessarily know who they are at any given time, but the area is full of colourful characters.
One of the things I loved a lot was photography, and I fell straight into a job almost within days of me being here. And it took me places, including working for the BBC for 21 years, and was something that, again, was just as if it was all meant to happen. I just couldn't believe it. The things that I've done, the people I've met through it and things, it was just great, wonderful. When I first started, worked mostly in darkroom, learning the skills of printing photographs, again in black and white. And from there, it was a matter of expanding into taking my own photographs and actually teaching for a while as well, again in this area. I taught in a place called Community Action Centre, taught young school leavers, worked with people like Charlie Phillips, who's a friend of mine, and that was it, photography. Yeah, so. In 1914, there was something called the Anglo-American Exposition, which was held at White City, and that was for 100 years of peace between Britain and the US. And one of the things they had at the exposition was something called the 101 Ranch. Now, they were from Oklahoma, and they came and they were a traveling kind of circus, but more of a Wild West circus type thing. And they stayed, a lot of the participants from the rodeo show stayed on Wormwood Scrubs. And the guy that I'm most interested in was a black cowboy called Bill Pickett. Now, when you look at John Wayne movies, for instance, you don't see any black cowboys, but it turns out about a quarter of all cowboys were black, also a quarter of Spanish, as in Hispanic from Mexico and places like that. A lot of Europeans, a lot of Native American Indians. They were also part of Wild West life, or you call it ranching life and things like that. Anyway, Bill Pickett was over in 1914 with this show. And one of the things that he used to do was bringing down steers, wild steers, which is part of his working life, chasing after these things, grabbing them, bringing them down. And as a result of it, one of the humane societies in London used to have him arrested after every show. So he would spend a lot of his time in jail, be bailed out, and come home and do the show for the next day. And he was one of the favorites in this rodeo show in 1914. Now, they were here just as World War I was breaking out. And as a result of that, the show had to stop. They lost a lot of their horses through requisition, a lot of their vehicles through requisition, and they wound up having to go back only with their working animals, like the horses they use for their shows and things, for the working. For everything else, they had to lose, like their camels and I think a lot of cows as well, because those all were part of the show. So that was all requisitioned by the British government for the war effort, and that was part of my interest, Bill Pickett.
I'm a local resident. I've been here since 1960. I came from Trinidad. I'm an author and a swimming teacher consultant. I got into writing through my swimming because I wanted to create a book that will demonstrate the fun element of swimming and why swimming is so important why fun is so important, because it eradicates the fear, things like that. Now, one of the first things I created was Rust the Mouse, specialising in eradicating the fear of swimming, because a lot of people tend to believe that it's just physical. But when you look at the Paralympics, you can see it's not just physical. It's a psychological thing. So that's what I specialise in. Now, what got me into writing is because I wanted to write a swimming book to demonstrate how much fun swimming can really be. Plus there was a swimming teacher that I used to work alongside that was really had a different attitude, shouting, screaming. I'm not in that. I believe in rhyme. So like for instance, people have difficulties going down the water. So we create a rhyme for them, which is a simple one. When you go in the water, you must always think, is this something that I should drink? If I don't want to cough and get into trouble, I puff out my cheeks and blow some nice bubbles. It's simple. And it's after doing that I realised that I really did like writing and I had a knack for it. So that's what I concentrated on Rust the Mouse, on developing it. I wrote one book which I self-published, and then I subsequently published 2 more. After publishing those books, setting up my own publishing company, I was approached by a production company who wanted to exploit the Rust the Mouse idea, which is what they did. It was an independent company, but it was the BBC wanted to get involved, so they came in and put in some money for the broadcasting. And I must say that with the BBC, they were very loyal to the books, because the books are written with a combination of the Caribbean and the English, which I wanted to celebrate because I love language.
Well, I run Grow to Know, which is a non-profit which is all about empowering more young people and more diverse communities into horticulture. I think it's a really essential part of our life that should be brought to the forefront, especially in the curriculum. So I think that a lot of young people especially are missing out on opportunity engaging with nature and living a more holistic life to improve their mental health, to improve the food security issues that we have in our society.
And I want to go on to be a documentary photographer / journalist. And I think when I take photos, my lens is always really focused on scenes of community and family and familial interaction. And a while ago I was taking photos, obviously I'm asking people beforehand about the relationship between migrant parents and their children. And I've taken a lot of photos I've taken a lot of photos of people in the area. And one I took just up the road, this man was talking, like trying to get his child to walk along. And I asked him, I was like, can I take a photo of you? He was like, yeah. And so I took a photo and his arm is just in the photo and his child's holding on and looking the other way. And I captioned it, so you come in, so you go in, which is a proverb. And it was funny to see because, you know, children are so insistent on going in their own path, but as I've realized growing up, you know, you grow more and more into your history. You grow more and more into the legacy of your parents, I guess.
Okay, I just want to say a few words about the mural outside. The mural outside is done by a friend, Finn Dack, who I absolutely admire his work. To me, he's on par with Banksy, if not more. He kindly did the mural for us because he wanted effectively as a gift to this community. Finn Dack is, for those that are not familiar with him, he's a very, very famous street artist. His work has appeared on the Australian stamp, and he's done stunning murals all over the world. What it is, it's what Finn has done. He has used the existing features of the building and incorporated that in his mural, and you will see it's a Southeast Asian lady with a wedding head dress. But what you'll notice about the headdress is that Finn Dack has actually used the existing features of this old Victorian building, and using colours, he's turned it into this stunning piece of art.
I was awarded an OBE for the development and promotion of black music over the last 40 years. I went to New York, I met Richie Havens. Richie Havens, who was one of my heroes, said he would come to London and work with me. I organized 3 concerts, one in London, one in Bristol, one in Liverpool, and he did them. And Richie's agent also was the agent for Taj Mahal, who was a great blues musician. And Taj came and worked for me. And so I started meeting a lot of black Americans who were prepared to come to London and work for me. I mean, people like Gil Scott-Heron, people like Lester Bowie and the Art Ensemble of Chicago, people like Gene Kahn, Billy Paul. So, you know, I mean, I was getting to work with a lot of black Americans who were international artists. And the other thing I realized, like with the Trust, where they were using my energy, in London, as a black person, you could be in the business forever, but you would never get an opportunity to work on a higher level, i.e. get into major venues, because you have to have major acts. And you can work with anybody who is starting out and help to develop their career, but the moment they chart, they don't want to know you anymore. So I could never get into a major venue with any local acts. I mean, it's only through my experience with black Americans that then I could turn around and say, okay, I've got an experience in the Albert Hall, I've got an experience in the Festival Hall, I've got an experience in the Lyceum, in the Astoria, in the Town and Country Club, you know. I've got access to all these venues now because I know how they work.
When I started my new job as a support worker, I've seen the vacancy on a newspaper. So when I went for the interview 1 year and 6 months ago, I went into one of my colorful suits, and when I went there, the manageress spoke to me for the interview. That would have lasted, 20 minutes, but it dragged on for an hour because the reason is the people I was supposed to look after came in disturbing us an interview, complimenting me what I was wearing. 10 of them, one after the other. And then the manageress finally said, you know what, Jammer, you've got the job, start tomorrow. So basically, my outfit got me the...
I've lived in the area for 34 years. I'm originally from Sussex, but I moved here and I went to St Mark's Road, Cambridge Gardens, Bassett Road, and I've lived in next to the Tabernacle Power Square for a number of long years. And I love this area because of the vibrancy, and I wouldn't live anywhere else apart from here in London if I had to move again. I love it.
This work is about Sarah Forbes Bonetta, who was a slave in the 1800s. Well, she was a princess. Her tribe got slaughtered by a neighbouring tribe. The young men were sold as slaves, and all the women and children and elderly were slaughtered. The neighbouring chief that did this captured the princess, who was the only one left alive. And then Queen Victoria sent a ship out to negotiate with this chief to stop killing neighbouring tribes, working behind the scenes on slavery. And the princess, the ultimate goal for this was that the princess then received this, was given to Queen Victoria by the chief. And she was brought up in Buckingham Palace and educated, and then at the age of 19 she was married to a businessman from Sierra Leone, and then had her own family, and her descendants now live all over the world. So my take on this was her coming out of the tent and seeing her tribe slaughtered, and this is called The Weeping Princess. And then this one's called Ascending Princess, when she was educated by Queen Victoria and was free.
I can't
my gallery space. My name is Ronald Bess. I specialize in modern British and contemporary paintings. Paintings from the 50s and 60s, 70s by some established artists and non-established artists. So the styles vary between figurative and abstraction. And also I'm a painter and a printmaker. And I teach at Heatherley School of Fine Arts, which is based in Loftus Road, Chelsea.
IT, this world has refused you. IT, confused and abused you. IT, can there be no end to your pain? How much more can remain? IT, this world has to face you. IT, have a bit of grace and embrace you. IT, we can't turn our backs on you again. Now that was a song about IT which I wrote in 2010 after the earthquake. Georgia, Georgia, the whole day through. Just an old sweet song brings Georgia on my mind. Georgia on my mind. And I might do a trumpet solo. And so forth. And then, as I said, this is a multiculti area. My particular multiculti is Brazilian bossa nova. So there's songs like Quando o coração que está cansado de sofrer encontra um coração também cansado de sofrer. É tempo de se pensar que o amor pode de repente chegar. And then I do my own songs, but most of those I've written at the piano, so I can't do those here today.
The Ladbroke Grove rail crash, also known as the Paddington rail crash, occurred on 5th of October 1999 at Ladbroke Grove. 31 people were killed and 417 injured. It remains one of the worst rail accidents in 20th century British history. It was the second major accident on the Great Western Main Line in just over 2 years, the first being the Southall rail crash of September 1997, a few miles west of this accident. Both crashes would have been prevented by an operational automatic train protection (ATP) system, wider fitting of which had been rejected on the grounds of cost. The Cullen Inquiry, which was a public inquiry that was carried out in 2 blocks of sittings, sandwiching the Joint Inquiry. The first block dealt with the accident itself. The second block dealt with the management and regulation of UK railway safety. This had always been part of the inquiry terms of reference, was given an additional urgency by a further train crash at Hatfield in October 2000. Major changes in the formal responsibilities for management and regulation of safety of UK rail transport ensued. City Challenge was awarded to North Kensington in 1992 and overall chaired by Councillor Cox from the local authority. Its board of directors consisted of representation from the local authority, 2 directors elected by and from the local community, and people from businesses and other bodies. Through its work, various local organisations were funded and jobs created. It also worked with English Heritage to carry out some restoration work at Kensal Green Cemetery and carried out the planting of trees along several streets in North Kensington, as well as implementing CCTV cameras. Canalot Studios, based on Kensal Road and developed by Benny Gray, provided offices and studios for the likes of David Dimbleby, Leo Sayer and Jamiroquai. Further along Kensal Road saw the offices of Virgin. Another notable organisation was the Lighthouse, based on Lancaster Road and offering an innovative model of residential and daycare for men, women and children living with HIV and AIDS, and provided a refuge and respite to people marginalised and abandoned because of their diagnosis. The Lighthouse was opened by Princess Margaret. Princess Diana visited the lighthouse, and none of the 12 patients wanted to see her, as they feared what becoming the subject of a press vastly hostile to people living with HIV would make of them. Eventually, one man who was not far from death agreed to meet Diana. In front of the world's media, Diana shook the hand of a man diagnosed with the illness.
We also do the lighthouse. When Diana came and visited, we did a posy for her.
There was a Jewish school in Lancaster Road where I went to school called Solomon Wolfson, which later became the Lighthouse.
That building is now the Museum of Brands. Kensal Green Cemetery is in the Kensal Green area of North Kensington. Inspired by Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, it was founded by the barrister George Frederick Carden. The cemetery opened in 1833 and comprises 72 acres of grounds, including 2 conservation areas adjoining a canal. The cemetery is home to at least 33 species of bird and other wildlife. This distinctive cemetery has memorials ranging from large mausoleums housing the rich and famous to many distinctive smaller graves, and including special areas dedicated to the very young. It has 3 chapels and serves all faiths. It is one of the Magnificent 7 cemeteries in London. The cemetery was immortalised in the lines of G.K. Chesterton's poem The Rolling English Road, from his book The Flying Inn. For there is good news yet to hear, and fine things to be seen, before we go to paradise by way of Kensal Green. Among the people buried there are Harold Pinter, Isambard Kingdom Brunel, Alexis Benoit Sawyer, Princess Sophia, Henry Hinchcliffe Ainley, Prince George, Duke of Cambridge, Freddie Mercury, Mary Seacole, James Miranda Stewart Barry, circa 1789 or 1799 to 1865, born Margaret Ann Bulkley. Grenfell Tower on the Lancaster West Estate in North Kensington was destroyed by fire in the early hours of 14th of June 2017. The fire killed 72 people and is the subject of a public inquiry.
Yeah, man. And obviously Grenfell happened. With Grenfell, you realised how strong our community was. We had people come from all over the UK showing support, giving their time. You know, but again, egos got involved, and a lot that could have got accomplished didn't get accomplished, purely based on egos and people not wanting to support one another because they wanted the seat certain someone would be sitting in. You know,
I looked down and I looked down there and looked up there, obviously having a look. But when I look down there, see where the Love Heart is? That's Grenfell Tower. Yeah? And I'm looking at that every morning, that's my reminder. Because I was here when that fire was on fire. Then people were burning, and that stayed in mind for a long time. And what can we do? It's still no better. It's getting worse.
The issue that I have been following through the Grenfell disaster, in my view, is clearly associated with the attitude the Kensington Chelsea Council for many years had about citizens in this part of the borough.
But I was so glad it was me because there was immediately trust because people knew me. I think half the people who knew me had been school mums or children of, friends of my children or whatever. So most people knew me, and that was that trust thing. I didn't have to get over the trust barrier because it was there already. But then, of course, there was a massive expectation that things would change because it was me, and that was hard. It was really grueling, but even in the worst of days, I was still glad it was me doing it and not somebody else who cared less.
In Grenfell, so the first people to respond were the community, were the neighbours, were the people you knew down the road, people that you didn't necessarily know but still gave the respectful nod to, but everyone came together and are still together.
Grenfell Tower, which was a fantastic place to live, beautiful flat, and we moved out in 2014, fortunately for us, but having witnessed some of the appalling way that the council treated the residents and the tenants, we moved into Trellick Tower.
Best memories were playing football on Green Pitch, which so a lot of people remember sat just below Grenfell Tower. And I used to think Grenfell Tower was, I used to think Green Pitch was a stadium, and I used to pretend that Barcelona and Arsenal scouts are sitting in Grenfell Tower watching me play football. But of course that was where I played football growing up and learned my trade. So I actually play football on, well, I say on the side, it's my main passion, but it's, the gardening is slowly taken over. But yeah, I used to think that Green Pitch was a stadium, and I used to imagine it being full of, I used to imagine people from Grenfell watching me and it being a stadium and full of fans.
Unfortunately, my brother passed away in just Christmas this year, and we couldn't have a big send-off for him because it was locked down. We had a small family funeral. We came to Portobello Road and to the shop just to drive past because that's who he was, and that's what he was. And it was so humbling to see the hundreds and hundreds of people in Portobello Road and down at the shop just paying their respects. Very, very humbling. That again shows you the community. Everyone knew him, he knew everyone.
So I was in lockdown for quite a long time because I haven't been well, but I came down today and it was literally like a film. If you had to do one of those cheesy films where some star is walking down there and they go, oh, hi there, hi, how are you doing, and all of that. I had that experience today, and it was just fabulous. And how much more can you be loved and appreciated and love people back in a neighbourhood like that, where people are happy to see you and you're happy to see them on a gorgeous sunny day.
So all the Blue Plaque series, that was my lockdown project. Because obviously we were closed here, so I needed something to do. But with a Kensington and Chelsea parking permit, you can go wherever you want in the borough, and there's so many blue plaques around here.
I actually came here, passing through, not intending to stay, but as happens, I wound up living here. And that was because people that knew both my mum and my dad lived in the area. My dad was here in '53 for the coronation. He was here in '58, and funny enough was here during the riots, the Notting Hill race riots. And he told me about some of these things, so my interest was piqued. And I thought, oh, this looks like a great place. And as soon as I landed, fell in love with it. It was run down, but it had a certain quality that you don't see in a lot of areas. And I think if I'd landed in somewhere else in London, I don't think I would have wound up staying.
There are a number of reasons to love these ends. In terms of social history, it's such a rich tapestry of all the elements that have led to the life as we live it in 2021. It may sound odd to say, but in some ways we were lucky enough to have our racial flashpoint much earlier than other people in the late 50s. And that meant that by the 60s, people in this neighbourhood were learning to live with each other rather than against each other. And that, from which came, almost every important dissent, countercultural moment of dissent comes from these ends, comes more or less from Powis Square, whether it's Release, whether it's housing associations, whether it's North Kensington Amenity Trust, whether it's the British Black Panthers, whether it's the community kicking down the fences in Powis Square, demanding the tabernacle is open to the community as a resource. These streets, you can feel the ghosts of the past dissenting against all forms of oppression, cultural, racial, economic.
Well, I moved in '66, and as you can appreciate, it was hugely different. And I wanted to leave within 6 months. Part of that was because my knowledge of Notting Hill at the time was just attending parties. For my husband and I had lived in West Hampstead, and he's a Singaporean Arab, and we had quite a mixed group of friends, and particularly when we moved here, we got to know the West Indian community really well. So we were always going to their parties, or Bacchanals, as a neighbour down the road, well into his upper 80s, will remind me from time to time that's how we first met each other. So that was my knowledge. I thought, I don't want to live here though, because I was in Fulham and it was okay. And I'm here, 55 years later. So yes, what's just wonderful about it is the really good mix of people. Yes, that has been changing over the last few years due to gentrification, and you can't buy what you want in Chelsea or South Kensington, so it encroached onto North Kensington. But even so, if you go down Portobello Road, there's still the wonderful atmosphere there.
Yeah, I came from Birmingham in 1976, and when I got here, I thought this is where I want to live, because it was so different from Birmingham. And I never wanted to ever go back to Birmingham, and even though they've improved it slightly, I still don't want to go back to Birmingham. It's a blot on the landscape. And the thing about this area, particularly North Kensington, and this true of this particular area, is its whole mixture of people, a mixture of things. What's changed dramatically is the prevalence of more affluent people, which has driven out a lot of the old businesses. A lot of the old pubs are closed, so the population's changed. So I can count on my hands probably 20 pubs within a mile radius which are closed down. But then the population's changed. There's more people who don't drink now. There's a younger population. So there's been changes, but it's still got that vibrancy, and it's still got that sort of attitude, I guess, with where punk started and where rebel music started, and that vibe, which I actually is part of what is about Notting Hill, Nottingdale. North Kensington is my favourite term.
Well, some people would say that it's because there's a ley line running through like Notting Hill Gate, but I just think here that it's like this place that it culminates and it brings in creative talent. And the lovely thing about this area that everyone seems to want to live in Notting Hill Gate. I don't know if it's the buzz, don't know if it's the people, don't know if it's the market, but it's just basically the vibe, the right place to be, because it's so chill and so creative.
North Kensington is a very special place just because of its diversity. There's, you have so many different people that live in harmony together. I've travelled quite a lot, and I've never come across anywhere in the world which has so much diversity in terms of people, and everybody just gets along and does things together, and we have done for many years. I think North Kensington it's a community that's made up of people that's very steeped in activism. The fact that the Tabernacle stands here is a testament to that. If it wasn't for community action and activism, this place wouldn't be open for the community to use.
You kind of get a taste of the whole world, and you get a taste of every single culture and every single special thing that the world has to offer. I mean, I've done a lot of traveling in my time, and most of the traveling that I've done, I found right back in Portobello, and North Kensington in general. So to be honest, having a business here is kind of like having a business pretty much everywhere in the world, because you meet every color, creed, race, religion, everything, and it's just too interesting to leave, I feel.
I always enjoy the richness of coming into North Kensington because it contrasts so greatly to the other side of the burgh. But what I was told by one of my local priests at the time, that the people at the other side of the burgh, the Holland Park Avenue side, found it easier to support charities overseas than to support local citizens in North Kensington.
I just love the way everybody knows each other. I brought up my children on my own, and half the neighbourhood kept an eye on them. They said, we saw so-and-so down the road. And I said, no, it's fine, we know them. And all that kind of thing. People do keep an eye on each other, and I love that. And that's going to come back, and they will be keeping an eye on me soon. I know that. So it's that very neighbourly thing, which obviously can get a bit intrusive sometimes, but the neighbourly thing is huge. I do genuinely think we're a family, a big dysfunctional family who argue a lot, of course, but I do feel that North Ken is a family, and we were that family before Grenfell. We really were. I had some bad times when my children were little, and my friends all rallied round, and they were amazing.
I would say one of the umbrella things for me would be just how, if you want to call it multicultural, it's like we're not mixing or melting pot, it's like more so a salad bowl. We've got tomatoes, we've got carrots, we've got cucumbers and lettuce, and we're not forced to mould into each other's vegetables or fruits. We're accepted as one, and we just mesh well together. The Caribbeans, the West Africans, the North Africans, the Hispanics, we all just growing up. If you see the history of this area, it's just so beautiful, and being able to hear it from people in the community like Isis, like Niles, or just other elders, be that just a couple generations older or a few generations older, being able to hear oral history that's so forgotten and so lost sometimes is a beautiful thing and a beautiful notion to have in life, to be able to, for me to now get these oral histories and pass it down to my young people and my future children, inshallah. Because we're so intertwined and interconnected, and if you know someone from West, then you know everyone, essentially. I feel like that's how connected we are as a community. Whether you're from South, if you know someone from West, I'm bound to know that person, or vice versa with North or East.
The thing about this area, Portobello Road and so forth, is just wonderful. It's the ultimate multi-culti experience. I don't even need to travel the world. All I've got to do is go outside my front door, and I'll meet people from Asia, the West Indies, Africa, and countries all over Europe. I will hear every language on earth, and I haven't got to go outside further than about 5 yards from my front door. Why would I want to live anywhere else? The bad things that have happened are mainly due to local government and big business. So, for instance, there would never have been a Starbucks. Everything was a little local shop. I gather that they're trying to do away with some of the antique arcades up the top end now and replace it with some posh restaurant.
Great thing about this area, there's something for me for every mood and every thing that I want to do. So if I want to walk in the park, if I want to get the blustery wind in along the canal, if I want to mingle with the most extraordinary and diverse groups of people, there is no better place than around here. I love it.
First of all, the area is really nice. I like North Kensington because it's one of the, I think it's one of the best places in London, to be quite honest. The people are very nice. It's multicultural here as well, and yeah, it's just different from other places in London. I prefer North Kensington.
I haven't really got anywhere else to compare it to because I've been so in it. And whenever I do go anywhere else, I mean, I can go to Hammersmith and go to Shepherd's Bush, go to Marylebone where I went to school. I can stay in this kind of zone of the world, really, and it has. I'm familiar with its poverty, which is rich as well, material, financial poverty, but that's got to be offset by a richness that I don't think multi-billionaires have that same thing that the people have, who are kind of where you have the sense of belonging and real belonging. I would hate to go from here. There's a diversity, there's a craziness, there's idiosyncrasies here, there's characters. It's in my DNA, what can I tell you? I'm a West Tenner, is what I wrote on the history group. I'm a West Tenner, and you can't take that out of me, and almost can't take me out of West Ten.
North Kensington, it's multicultural. There's people from all walks of life. You've got the rich with the poor, you've got black with the white, you've got the pink with the green. You get everything going on over here, no judgment. So that, yeah, people can just be. Sense of community's died, man. Sense of community's died. So we all want the same thing, but we're all trying to take different avenues to get it. Instead of us trying to jump on the same bandwagon, we all want our own bandwagon. We all want to be the boss. We all want to be sitting on the throne. And really and truly, all our goals are the same. I don't see why it matters who's sitting on the throne. As long as the objectives get achieved, we should all be happy. But unfortunately, egos get involved, and that's how it is, unfortunately. Like, I remember being a kid, like, just Portobello Road Market, walking to school, there was store owners like Barry. He used to be very loud. He used to sell fruit and veg. Anytime I walked past, he'd always throw me fruit, whether it was an orange, whether it was an apple, on my way to school, and always told me, make sure you're eating your fruits. Like, I could leave my mum's estate, head down somewhere, I can fall off my bike, and my mum will receive a phone call to let her know, right, your son just fell off his bike in so-and-so X location. Like, there was a real sense of community. Everyone knew each other. We were all interconnected. It didn't matter about your faith or the colour of your skin. Yeah, man. Then obviously Grenfell happened. With Grenfell, you realised how strong our community was. We had people come from all over the UK showing support, giving their time, But again, egos got involved, and a lot that could have got accomplished didn't get accomplished, purely based on egos and people not wanting to support one another because they wanted the seat someone would be sitting in. This community's finished, man. That's the realest of rap, ISIS. Nah, be real. This community's finished, man. Like, it's not nothing like how it was when I grew up. It was like everyone was cool, man. Do you know what I mean? It didn't matter what side you're from. Today we got different sides of the area not getting along with each other. Do you know what I mean? It's all just, yeah, man. Do you know what I mean? Today's society, people smile in your face but carry ill feelings in their heart. You get it? When I grew up, that didn't really exist, man. If you didn't like someone, they knew you didn't like them. I think the youth will do something great. I believe in them. We've got mad potential in our area, but unfortunately we ain't got the space to release our energy. So everyone's releasing it in ways that some people might not agree with or think that is negative. But the truth of the matter is, if you gave them the avenue that you wanted when you was at their age, they'd exceed all of us. They'd excel like crazy. And things that they've learned, you can't learn from no book. Do you know what I mean? They've learned from real life experiences. So yeah, man, you know what I mean? Everyone today is book smart, no one's really life smart anymore. Nothing's hard, everything's simple. Humans complicate things. That's it, man. The right people in the right seats, everything can be accomplished, you know. But people are looking out for their own race. People look out for their own innit? It's like they forget, right, if I rip your skin off you, rip my skin off me, rip the skin off someone else, you won't know the race of no one, you just know that's a human. You know what I mean? And that's how we're meant to be, innit? Like,
what makes it Ladbroke Grove special for me is, I think the fact is, I was born here, but I didn't know it. And so there's a specialness around that, which is kind of like beyond words, really. I can't really communicate that. Apart from the fact I've always felt really safe here, I've always felt really connected here, and I've always felt this is just always a part of my story.
One thing that you realise, I think very early on growing up in Ladbroke Grove, is that family extends so far beyond blood, and that community can form such a powerful family base for a lot of people. And it's interesting in this area because that extends so far beyond, you know, the bounds of religion and race. And
London is pretty and rough and everything in one, you know, so that always fascinated me. And I think this part of London is probably the most interesting, most diverse, most tolerant part of London, if not in the world. You know, we love traveling, and I think every time we come back, we appreciate it even more.
Yes.
What I quite like is that people are less pretentious here. You know, they just know who they are, they know what they've done in their lives, and they're just themselves.
Yes.
And they're incredibly, I mean, they're really cool. I mean, they don't have to try hard anymore. I mean, some are still trying, but you know, they're really fantastic personalities. I think I enjoy probably more than Joanna, because Joanna has seen it all, heard it all, and she's met a lot more people than I did.
North Kensington's special basically because of the community. That's what makes an area, and there's a lot of, everyone knows each other basically. I mean, before it used to take me 20 minutes just to walk from here to Tesco's, which is only 3 doors away. But it's the feeling of it all. I mean, there's a new lot coming in, and it's more of a cafe kind of look, but the old people are still here, and they're the ones who actually really make it what it is.
We like the community because we all work like a family. They're like us. They like to come into the store. There are so many different communities living in the area, and they all are friendly and helping each other all the time.
It's changed a lot, but it's a magical place. All the different cultures, and Spanish people, Moroccan people, and we all get on, so which is nice.
Remarkable area at the time in the late 60s, a marvellous mixture of people from all over the world, and I used to go and drink in Henneke's pub, which is now the Earl of Lonsdale, and they had marvellous artwork on the walls by local artists.
I'm Daria, I'm 9 years old, and I've lived all my life in Portobello. I love Portobello because especially the market and carnival, and I especially like how in lots of movies such as Notting Hill, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Paddington Bear, they have mentioned Portobello, and I like that.
Personally, I think it lost the spirit a little bit when the Notting Hill film came out, actually. And I think that changed the dynamic of the area quite a lot. People came to the area as kind of tourists, thinking it was a tourist spot because of the film, expecting it to look exactly like the film did, and it didn't. I mean, I'm not against change, but yeah, things have like lost its spirit a little bit. But yeah, if you're a local and you know people around, you'll still feel it and you'll know the vibe. But
I've lived in the area for some 40 odd years. North Kensington has always been a melting pot of diversity and culture. It has an amazing community, and most of the old timers in the area have seen it through so many changes over the years. And despite all of the changes, whether they be good, bad or indifferent, I can honestly say there's always been community here, which is really lovely. Having lived in other areas, I don't think I've ever found another area of London that has such a diversity as Portobello Road and the wards surrounding.
I think what's amazing about North Kensington, it's totally bohemian. Every culture, every creed. You've got a Spanish community, you've got a Portuguese community in St Lawrence Terrace. In the early 70s, you have the Moroccan community turn up, you have the West Indian community, you have the Irish community, you have the Spanish community, you have the rich, you have the poor, you have everything. It's everything. If you ever go to California, this is a place called Venice Beach. Venice Beach is Portobello Road with a beach, yeah? And this community has absolutely everything, every type of food, every type of people, every type of culture, and it's a beautiful melting pot where everybody gets on and just does it, and we all make it fun. And you know, an event like the Carnival, which is the biggest event in the whole of Europe. Yeah, I've seen the massive change in this area, and it moves and it changes. You know, I've seen the push of all the local community being pushed out of the area because they can't afford to live around here. I don't like that. I think we should grasp back what we got and create a foundation for all, really, I think.
It's a nice area, the people are friendly, most people know us around here, and we've always been happy here. Well, the thing about this area was that growing up, I didn't know about the riots that preceded my birth too much. We grew up here and it was a very happy neighbourhood, everybody got on. I still see people that I've known all my life. We went to school together. There's a big mix here, it's a big, I don't know what you call it, it's like a cement mix, so we're all thrown in and we all come out the other side covered in grit. But everybody always got on here. It's been one of those areas that just, if you were from the Grove, you were kind of cool. And it's not changed much. So hopefully it will carry on.
Well, I think it's quite unique. Having lived all over London, I think it's quite a unique area in terms of community and integration. And it is quite special in many ways. It's obviously lots of special needs as well, but it has a character all of its own.
It's an area, I've travelled all parts of London. My family has lived in South, East and North London. My extended family, but my mother and myself, we've always lived in this area, in North Kensington. I really love it because it's always had a great sense of community. It's had a definitely diverse population, and that's what I really, really love. It's diverse, and especially you see that in places like the market, an area that's full of love and full of diversity and nice food.
I've been living in Ladbroke Grove, Portobello area for over 60 years. I've seen lots of changes in the area, some good and some bad. Recently there have been an introduction of lots of restaurants and wine bars, which is cool, and the antiques always been amazing.
I've been just walking down Portobello Road or Goulburn Road, you hear so many different languages and you smell so many different foods from different cultures, and I think that's very rare in any place in the world, and I just feel so rejoiced in living in a community that is so diverse. I always say that someone like me can only exist in this area, my mum being Egyptian Kuwaiti and my dad Jamaican Italian, so I really do think that this community is one of the most diverse in the world, and I think it's something that should be celebrated.